All right, welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We begin with some breaking news from Pawtucket, Rhode Island, where a shooting took place at a high school hockey game. According to local reports, now 2 are dead. Several others are injured. The shooter appears to have taken his own life. We're going to bring you the latest as we get it. Also, Chucky Schumer wants the rainbow pride flag to be recognized as a congressionally authorized symbol, along with the American flag and the POW MIA flag, military service flags, and the Civil Air Patrol flag. And could we have a Republican governor in California? New polling, this is wild, shows Republican candidates Chad Bianco and Steve Hilton hold 2 of the top 3 places in the polls. And because 10 Democrat candidates are splitting their support, Bianco and Hilton, through a plurality, could actually feasibly both be the 2 top vote getters in the June 2nd primary and be on the ballot together versus each other due to the state's jungle primary rules. Wouldn't that be something? But first, the globalists get owned at their own conference in Munich. Let's do this. One of my absolute favorite things in the world is when these snooty globalists get absolutely destroyed at their own conferences. Like, this should be a drinking game. You may or may not have been seeing what's going on the global stage right now with the meetings, but the Munich Security Conference took place this weekend. Still going on throughout the week. Nobody else is paying attention to it, but these conferences don't actually matter to us from a policy standpoint anymore because Trump basically gave the globalists the middle finger. But it's good to know what these people are actually doing because, God forbid, another Democrat gets in. I want to know how soon and how many of those blue helmet UN people or tiny Euros I'm going to have to fight over a social media post about immigration. But Marco Rubio gave a lashing to the world order, telling them basically the institutions they believe so wholeheartedly in that are apparently, according to them, essential for world order, have done approximately butt kiss.
We don't need to dismantle the global institutions of the old order that together we built. But these must be reformed. These must be rebuilt. For example, the United Nations still has tremendous potential to be a tool for good in the world. But we cannot ignore that today, on the most pressing matters before us, it has no answers and has played virtually no role.
None. Where have all the experts and the highbrow, overeducated adults, as Biden referred to them as, been? Where have they been? Nothing. Nowhere.
The only comment is the United States' interest is to see the war end, and we want to do what we can to make it end. We're the only nation on earth that apparently can get both sides to the table to talk. I'm not here to insult anybody, but the United Nations hasn't been able to do it. There's no other country in Europe that's been able to do it. The United States has been successful.
Yeah, and I'm just going to throw this one out there, but perhaps the reason those institutions have not been able to get the 2 sides of the table is because they don't want to. Perhaps these globalist powers actually, in fact, have an invested interest in the conflict itself. I mean, think about it. The more conflict, the more money and power that they garner. This is why you should question absolutely everything. I have said this before. The population of Russia has more in common with the population of America than differences. Putin's a relic of the Cold War. I'm not talking about him. But absent him, America and Russia should be allies. Similar demographics, similar Christian values, shared interest in energy and revenue and national pride. Most of their populace doesn't believe in communism even anymore. We fought alongside Russia in World War II. Russia actually sustained the bulk of the casualties against fascism in the war. It's those same institutions, though, the UN and NATO, that have further isolated Russia. After the Cold War, the fall of the Berlin Wall and all those things, we, as in NATO, promised Russia that, quote, we would not expand 1 inch eastward. And yet those same groups, NATO, UN, things like that, violated that promise. We told you about this over a year ago. Fast forward to 1994, when Clinton signed off on expanding NATO. And in 1999, Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic officially joined NATO. Fast forward to 2004, where Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, 2 of which share a border with Russia, also adding Romania, Bulgaria, Slovakia, and Slovenia to NATO. And Russia, again, was super ticked off about this. And they said, hold up, this is not what we agreed to. NATO didn't care. Then, in April of 2008, at the NATO summit, a bunch of leaders issued a declaration that signaled a, quote, strong support of Ukraine and Georgia to eventually join NATO. Two more countries that border Russia, as you can see. In the Bucharest Summit Declaration of 2008, paragraph 23 states, quote, NATO welcomes Ukraine's and Georgia's Euro-Atlantic aspirations for membership into NATO. We agree today that these countries will become members of NATO. Okay, so Putin's even more angry and went to war in Georgia to stop the NATO membership. People forget this stuff. Then in 2010, we put missile systems, NATO, in Poland and Romania. And the Ukraine president, Yanukovych, was expressly elected on neutrality in Ukraine, which Putin was cool with. But Russia and Ukraine were simultaneously negotiating a 25-year lease in Crimea for a Russian naval base. But then in 2014, while the U.S. tried to overthrow the Ukrainian leaders, which would have potentially put the Russian base there in jeopardy, those negotiations led to Russia taking control of Crimea because they were like, we're not going to deal with this anymore. Those institutions, NATO and et cetera, led by the same globalists in that room today and this weekend, and the ones that have in the past represented our country too, believe it or not, Barack Obama and Joe Biden, they caused these problems. That's why they can't solve them, because Trump has no vested interest in conflict, which is why he has been able to solve them. That's why the globalists hate him, because he's solving the conflicts. It cuts down the globalist money tree. Now, if you recall, 4 days into the Russian-Ukraine war, I'm going to prove this to you folks, there were talks of peace and deals, and they were meeting face-to-face between Ukraine and Russia. Ukraine was about to agree to no NATO membership. And then the European nations, and eventually Joe Biden, pushed for the Ukraine to join NATO, destroying peace talks. I mean, great job, guys. That's what Marco Rubio is talking about regarding reforming things like NATO. Beyond Ukraine or Gaza or even the Iraq war, I could do this with basically everything they've done ever. The UN has been doing stuff in Africa for decades. They've spent like over $1 trillion in that continent for over the same time period. And you know what their starvation rate did? In 1990, overall in the continent of Africa, 20 to 30% of its people were starving. Today, it's 22.1%. 4%. Basically the same thing after $1 trillion spent. Why? Well, because one, third world countries in Africa are third world because of their people, many with IQs under 60, still living in mud huts, and not because of oppression, shockingly. But more importantly, the great purveyors of the globalist agenda, the aid and help that we were told was going there to solve everything, aren't actually going there, but rather being used as bribes and gifts for guys like Matthew Zahui, or however you say his name, the director of financial management at the U.S. African Development Foundation, who just pled guilty to it. That guy was appointed by the so-called experts. Experts that today and this weekend were applauded for displaying some of the most incoherent babbling.
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is of course a very long-standing policy.
Oh, foreign policying. It took her 30 seconds to spit out the last. Hey, can you imagine that woman negotiating with Xi Jinping? Gretchen Whitmer, another one, the governor of Michigan. I don't know why she's in Munich talking about foreign policy. Likely to run for president in 2028, though, admits to not knowing anything.
On Ukraine, what does victory look like?
Ambassador. Oh, please, I'd love to hear your answer.
It is. The two that I am on the panel with are much more steeped in foreign policy than a governor is. But I do think that Ukraine's independence, keeping their land mass, and having the support of all the allies, I think is the goal.
Yeah. Peace and things and stuff. I bet you can't say why you hold that opinion. And then guess what? They got a round of applause. Like, for what? Nonsense pipe dream foreign policy. Policy that would then have to be enforced by tough men with guns, both of which their party claims to hate. It's pretty ironic, isn't it? They know nothing. And just listen to them.
Marco Rubio's speech
was a pure appeal to Western culture. My favorite part was when he said that American cowboys came from Spain.
I thought they came from Winnetou, but
I believe the Mexicans and descendants of African enslaved peoples would like to have a word.
Imagine having the same name as the man who brought horses to Mexico in 1519, Hernan Cortez, and not knowing it. And then trying to call out the Secretary of the State for your own historical illiteracy. These people are morons. There are people that think they know everything. They've never fixed anything, not because of Trump, but because of them. The Dunning-Kruger effect in full display. The dumber you are, the smarter you think you are. Why the governor of Michigan is speaking in Munich on foreign policy, or AOC, who was a bartender a few years ago, is just beyond me. Claiming they're fighting the oligarchy while kissing the ring of billionaires like Alex Soros, whose father made their billions toppling nations' financial systems, shorting the Bank of England and toppling their currency, crashing it. Thailand, Malaysia, too. We're done playing with these globalists. We're not going to run from our success anymore and apologize. That's what Marco Rubio was getting at. We're not ashamed of it in the name of social justice or immigration or carbon footprints or the new world, whatever. Pick one. Pedophiles. America is acting in America's best interest. We are the might, we are the money, and we are the economic engine of this planet. What's the point of having 11 nuclear-powered aircraft carriers if we bend the knee to fear-mongering from nations who've already destroyed themselves with the very policies that they're trying to push on us? This conference, total reminder of that. Former UK Prime Minister Liz Truss, ma'am, I just laugh at these things because they still think they're relevant.
Well, you've got to ask what is going on at the Munich Security Conference. I'm here in America because I find it a lot more of a productive place to be. They're still clinging to a world order that isn't working anymore. They talk about the rules-based international system. They talk about the UN, but it has become defunct. And Donald Trump has essentially shaken the whole thing up. He has exposed what has been going on, which is a lot of these institutions are actually controlled by the Chinese. Yeah. You know, they have successfully infiltrated things like the International Court of Justice. They have put a lot of pressure on countries in the developing world. And President Trump is the person who is now standing up against all of these appeasers. Yeah. And the European leaders who were listening to Marco Rubio's speech, these are the people who are destroying our economy with net zero. Right. They are allowing huge numbers of migrants into our countries, which is having a terrible effect. Mm-hmm. And they are deeply unpopular. You know, in Britain, Keir Starmer is the most unpopular prime minister in history. Right. Emmanuel Macron is incredibly unpopular. Ursula von der Leyen, the head of the EU, is hated. And what Marco Rubio was doing was telling them the truth about the failure of all of these years and years of policies. Yeah, they don't want to hear that. And obviously people like, Macron, they had to basically throw someone in jail to keep him from running against him. So, I mean, what you're saying is dead on. But Hillary Clinton, she's another failed person. Just add her to the list of Democrats that embarrassed themselves on the world stage. Watch this, ma'am.
He has betrayed the West. He's betrayed human values. He's betrayed the NATO Charter, the Atlantic Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. A lot of what has been done before to try to make sense of how difficult it is to restrain people who want unaccountable power. I just got to drop some facts here because she's talking about betrayed, but she sold 20% of America's precious uranium to Russia as the Secretary of State, personally authorized the uranium one dealer, which then her husband went and miraculously got a $500,000 speaking gig in Moscow right after that, then turned around and called the same country that she gave that to a threat to our national security, made up a dossier about Donald Trump and tried to keep him from getting it. Tear these people down.
But what is she still doing there? I mean, she talks about unaccountable power, but of course she didn't get elected as the president of the United States. And she and her husband, Bill, have done huge amounts of damage. He was the president who allowed China into the World Trade Organization. A lot of the problems we have today with deindustrialization of the West, China cheating in the world trade system, were caused by Bill Clinton and the mistakes he made when he was in office. And of course, people like Bill and Hillary Clinton are now milking all of these international institutions for all they're worth.
Yeah, no, they are. I mean, look, Bill Clinton made $100 million on speaking fees in the last 20 years. So I wish my speech was worth that much. But not only did Hillary lose her absolute ever-loving mind about Trump, but she also hosted a panel called Girls Just Want to Have Fundamental Rights, and decided to have a man pretending to be a woman tell real women what it's like to be a what? Just watch this.
When there is scarcity in jobs, when there is scarcity of opportunity, they pick boogeymen, or in this case, boogie people, and they blame them.
Boogie people.
It's astonishing, but these people have been wrong about everything. You know, they were wrong about transgender ideology. They've been wrong about energy, which has destroyed the West, you know, not using our fossil fuels. They've been wrong about migration, which is, we've seen a crime wave in Europe, sex crimes committed by illegal immigrants, because of the human rights acts that have been introduced, which essentially give the same human rights to illegal immigrants that they give to British citizens. And the British people are suffering. And these people have the gall to turn up at these international conferences and make no apology for their failures of the last 40 years. And it's why the West has been so weak.
Is Liz Truss. I'm glad you're in America, because they'd arrest you for saying some of that stuff on the show. We appreciate it, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, it turns out there was a list after all. Trump's DOJ releasing a list with hundreds of prominent people from the Epstein files. We got Chad Prather coming up in just a bit. But first, another partial government shutdown amid a standoff over ICE. Dems lay out 10 stupid demands that we brought you last week. Wait until you hear about this next.
It's our America. We built it. Courage, freedom. Millions go to Newsmax when they need to know. Start today on the free Newsmax app. Newsmax is real news for real people.
As a cardiologist, when I put my patients on a statin to reduce cholesterol, I also tell them it can deplete their CoQ10 levels. I recommend taking Cunol CoQ10. Cunol has 3 times better absorption than regular CoQ10. Cunol, the brand I trust.
Joining us is Dr. Drew from the Wellness Company with advice for dealing with seasonal colds and flu. Doctor?
Cold and flu season is here, and every year you or a loved one gets sick. Your doctor can't see you. Waiting in a crowded urgent care is brutal. This is a particularly bad cold and flu season, and it's why doctors suggest every family needs an emergency medical kit. Your medical emergency kit is filled with essential prescriptions. It includes antibiotics like generic Z-Pak to get well faster, amoxicillin for pneumonia, strep throat, ear infections, plus prescriptions for nausea and UTIs, and even ivermectin. It's easy. Just match your symptoms to the prescription in your guidebook or call the telemedicine doctor standing by. Take your medication early and feel better faster. Having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care in your home. No waiting to see a doctor, no lines at the pharmacy.
Smart advice. We've shared the website and discount code below to save viewers $45. Order now and your kit will be rushed to your door. Thank you, doctor.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and they're gonna love it.
Precise designs, subtle curves, curated upgrades, elevated design for thoughtful living. Thuma.
Let's face it, folks, car repair costs are not going down anytime soon. In fact, they're only getting worse. Protect your hard-earned dollars with a money-saving plan for your out-of-warranty vehicle with one call to CarShield. Plans offer protections on big items like your car's transmission, engine, AC, and thousands of parts and systems. Call now. Waiting could cost you thousands.
Call CarShield now for your free quote and to lock in your rate with their price lock guarantee. Call 800-213-0458.
You may not have noticed, but it's day 3 of the partial government shutdown, and talks to fund the Department of Homeland Security won't be getting fixed anytime soon, as Congress isn't even in session this week, and Republicans gave away all their leverage, too. We told you about the Democrats' 10 ridiculous demands. They wanted targeted enforcement, a ban on masks, and requiring visible ID, which is hilarious, as they don't want voters to have to show an ID, but okay. You know what? All the representatives should, because DHS is closed down, all the representatives should probably just lose their security. All their Congress, including the building, by the way. No security whatsoever. Turn off the metal. You want to defund our homeland? Let's defund your homeland. Reporter at the Daily Caller, Ashley Brasfield, and host of Tony Katz Today, Tony Katz himself. All right, Tony, you have discussed a lot of these types of things on your show, sir.
Yeah, this is a conversation that comes up aggressively and constantly. My issue here is that you could talk about, okay, we'll get rid of this for Congress. You won't have that for Congress. Where are Republicans to say that Democrats, by shutting down the Department of Homeland Security, are killing American kids? Where are they to say that because we're shutting down DHS, Democrats favor fentanyl getting to your children on the playgrounds?
Tony,
why is it that they won't fight the way that the political left fights? This is the moment. This is the time. There's a really weird thing happening where the Republicans have failed to learn the lessons of Trump, which I was under the impression that they had learned from the beginning, and they won't fight the way they need to make this issue a very pressure-filled one on the Democratic Party.
But Ashley, the other thing too is through the big beautiful bill, ICE is the one thing that's fully funded. It's stuff like TSA and FEMA and a bunch of other programs that don't have any money right now.
That's exactly right. And, you know, Tony, put it in my veins. That's exactly what they need to be doing right now. And with TSA and FEMA, you know, you're right. The big beautiful bill, I think about 70-ish% of the funding towards DHS is being funded here. But Republicans are having this really hard PR issue, and they've really had it throughout this first year of the Trump administration, where they're not fighting for things. And I mean, this could be applied to the Save America Act with elections too. So why aren't they doing it? And they don't seem to be on the same page with the PR messaging here and fighting the same way Democrats do. I mean, that is exactly right.
100%. Republicans are more interested in looking like they're taking the high road than actually getting anything done, it seems. All right, despite the partial shutdown, though, Tony, border czar Tom Homan says the federal agents are still out there doing their job. Roll this.
ICE has continued to enforce law across the country. They're already funded. Now, the ICE officers won't be getting paid, but they're getting used to that, it seems like. So, no, the immigration mission, the reason why President Trump was elected to be president, continues. We have the most secure border in history of the nation. We got record numbers of arrests and deportations. That will continue.
Womp womp for Democrats, Tony.
I think it's important that this message keep going out and keep going forward. The worst thing that I think the administration could do is actually take their foot off the gas when it comes to removing people who are in the country illegally. A change of tactic is fine by everybody, but you have to be present, you have to be focused, so we are clear, and so the administration understands this, because of course they listen to Newsmax. The American people voted for this. We did not vote to allow these violent agitators, paid violent agitators, to go about ramming their cars into ICE agents. We want that stopped. But we did vote to ensure that we have safety and security in the nation. It is a winner for the midterms. It is what America wants. And the idea of reducing that by any stretch is madness. Changing a tactic is fine. My faith in Homan, I think America's faith in Homan is very, very real. But they cannot in any way think that somehow less is going to be better for them in some PR fight. Huge mistake.
Yeah, exactly. Win the fight and then move on. Ashley, real quick, U.S. job growth. This is so wild. I got this alert this morning. They're saying that we had no job growth in 2025 now, and that was overstated by 1 million in 2025. And then same thing under Biden. They had to revise his down almost 1 million. Also, who is doing these numbers?
Well, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, of course, and you'll remember that they removed the Biden administration pick from there. And I'm not sure if the actual nominee for the Trump administration has gone through yet. But I mean, this continuous revising, I mean, Trump was right. That's all I can say here, really, because I mean, people were arguing back and forth about this in the media when the firing happened. But I mean, this is the reality. And I mean, I can prove that there was no job growth because I was coming out of an MBA program in 2024, coming into 2025, and people were not getting jobs for over a year. So that's just my, real life take on it, and that obviously transferred over to these numbers.
Yeah, they were like, oh, you know what? Let's shut down the economy for 3 years for the flu, and there's never going to be any problem with it. Real quick, Tony, 30 seconds. Kamala Harris tops 2028. Fine.
What are we doing? Why is anybody paying attention to this? To think that this is a poll that matters is to think that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has intellect. It's a waste of time, and the only thing it can do is lead you to good bourbon. So maybe there is a silver lining.
The good news is... What? Go ahead.
I'm glad it took her a year because she's finally coming out towards Gen Z, and she only did one podcast in her entire 107 days doing it. So she's finally coming around to the idea, I guess, right?
Yeah, and AOC's polling at 9% too, so that should be interesting. Ashley, Tony, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, the DOJ claims that all of the Epstein files were released, saying that they have done their part for this investigation. But how many people are behind bars, Pam? Interesting. One influencer who was there, who received those Phase 1 binders, drop of Epstein files. My man Chad Prather, sound off in a sec.
You know, I think the biggest selling point for Newsmax is we're not doing the same boring, predictable news. You flip through the other channels, you got these high-paid hosts. They say the same thing every night. You know what they're going to say. It's a little different.
Power of disease. Ticks and fleas. Estinal worm.
15 million dogs and counting know Simparica Trio offers triple protection against heartworm disease, ticks and fleas, and intestinal worms, all with one monthly chew. This drug class has been associated with neurologic side effects, including seizures. Use with caution in dogs with or without a history of these disorders. Don't just protect, triple protect.
Total Beats, America's best-selling Beats brand, is available at Walmart. Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews contain a key ingredient clinically shown to deliver 2 times better blood pressure support. Take control of your health. Head to Walmart and get Total Beats blood pressure support soft chews today.
From drained investment accounts and stolen tax returns to lost wages and hiring lawyers, identity theft can cost you more than you might think. That's why only LifeLock offers the $1 Million Protection Package, which covers stolen funds, experts and lawyers, and out-of-pocket expenses up to $3 million in total. Don't face the high cost of identity theft alone. Protect your future and finances with LifeLock. Join today.
Have you ever thought of getting a walk-in tub for you or someone you love? Now is a great time to take a look at getting a Safe Step walk-in tub.
With Safe Step's standard heated seat and new fast fill faucet, you can enjoy a nice warm bath up to 20% faster. And the convenient touchpad control is right at your fingertips.
Each tub comes standard with a dual hydrotherapy system. The 10 water jets can help increase mobility, relieve pain, boost energy, and improve sleep, while the MicroSoothe advanced air therapy system oxygenates and softens skin.
Safe Step walk-in tubs are built to maximize safety so you can stay in your home and enjoy the comforts of bathing again.
So call now for more information and a free, no-obligation consultation.
When you call today, you'll also receive our limited time offer. Don't wait to enjoy safer bathing. Call 1-800-296-0431.
I was tired of being exhausted at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and constantly suffering from brain fog.
Toxic EMF radiation is coming from your cell phone and smart devices and being absorbed by your body.
We don't see EMFs. It's out of sight, out of mind.
That's why people around the world are choosing Bodywell. Bodywell's technology holds a harmonic pattern that helps your body respond better to EMF exposure, reducing EMF radiation absorption up to 80%. Just peel, stick, and protect.
This little device changed everything.
Bodywell's BioCard protects your entire body. Simply place it in your pocket.
I didn't believe in EMF protection until I actually felt the difference.
I sleep much better, more like a baby.
I mean, my kids are my world, and I want to do everything I can to protect them and give them a better life.
Order your BioCard today, and for a limited time, get a BioChip, a $99 value for free. Go to Bodywell.com. That's Bodywell.com.
Okay, let's go. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced this weekend that all Epstein files have been released, claiming no records were withheld on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, or political sensitivity. Was that hard? Could have done that from the beginning. By the way, the list of 6 names Congressman Ro Khanna read from the House floor last week, saying that they were wealthy, powerful men that the DOJ hid, 4 of them actually had no apparent connection to Epstein directly. But Bondi included a list of over 300 high-profile names in this letter. To be fair, Donald Trump is on that list. No allegations. There's a lot of people on that list, though, that we don't know what they did. This is my problem. There was a list, though, despite them saying there wasn't one. Who cares if it's condensed and released now? These names were always there. The ones who tried to warn us, though, were kicked out of the circles that these people were in. Hollywood, Keanu Reeves, Mel Gibson, Kanye, Roseanne Barr. They're not on the list, yet people told us that they were the moral beacons. You ever wonder why we're skeptical of the government? You wonder why there's all these conspiracies floating around? Because we're being lied to left and right. Chad Prather, host of the Chad Prather Show, who was there. One of the Phase 1 binders he was given. Where was the Phase 2, Chad?
Well, you know, February 27th was the date last year. We were invited to the White House for a completely different reason, Carl, and Pam Bondi dropped that in our lap. We were hoping that, you know, they said that was not a campaign promise, but we were hoping, we took it as a campaign promise, that there was going to be a list and information was going to be released. I was on Newsmax twice that afternoon after receiving that binder, exposing the fact that there was nothing that was new in that binder except for a letter to Kash Patel saying there were 10,000 documents still in the FBI field office in New York that she demanded to be on her desk by 8 a.m. the next morning. So that was a year ago. That was a year ago, and we didn't get a Phase 2, and now here we are. Now, again, we have a lot of information that's out there, but what do we do with it? What are we going to do with the now released files? Because everybody is guilty in the eyes of public opinion. But what's actionable? You know, we should have learned from this Diddy case that happened a few months ago. Yeah. They bit off way more than they could choose. They went after him for something that they couldn't prove. And yeah, he's a vile, sick, morally corrupt, bankrupt individual, a depraved person. But so is everybody that had anything to do, you know, physically with Epstein and his crimes. But we don't know who actually had anything to do with it. That's the problem. We could have released this a year ago.
Oh, no, 100%. And that's the thing is that the left is running to this saying, oh, Donald Trump's on that list. It's like, for what? A plane ride from Palm Beach to New York where his son Eric was on the same plane? I mean, like, great. But J.B. Pritzker, and to your point, J.B. Pritzker's brother, this is why J.B. Pritzker hates Donald Trump so much, because his brother Tom just stepped down from the billionaire organization over his ties to Epstein. And I'm just sitting there thinking, it's like, okay, great, the guy's worth billions of dollars. Who cares if he stepped down and he's going to go live on a yacht? Let's put some people in jail.
Yeah, let's put some people in jail. We need some handcuffs. We need some accountability. We need some real justice. We need real indictments with real proof, with a real Justice Department that gets real evidence on people and some real convictions. You know, what you're going to see here is like rats jumping off the ship. Growing up in the woods of Georgia, we used to say a bit dog always barks. The ones that are yelping are the ones that probably have something to hide. You can accuse people all day long, but let's see who's going to rise to the surface on this. Keep the pressure up. Let's keep bringing some things to light, but let's get some actionable evidence out there. Because again, you know, if God parted the skies and whispered to the earth and said, Donald Trump didn't do anything with Jeffrey Epstein except report him to the police, the people who are against Donald Trump would still not believe that.
Right.
I mean, they're not going to believe the voice of God.
Nobody believes anything. That's the problem.
And what do you believe? Because everything's based on feelings at this point, Carl. That's the crazy thing is we feel like everybody should be guilty. And listen, there are guilty people out there. Jeffrey Epstein was not the disease. He was the symptom of the disease.
Yes.
The cabal, the elitists, the power brokers out there. We call them what you want. They're the symptom of the disease and we know there's intelligence agencies hiding all of this stuff.
Yes.
Sometimes they're out there not stopping the evil, they're studying the evil. Sometimes they weaponize it. So that's the strategy of the powerful. Divide the public, fragment the outrage, turn citizens into rival tribal gangs arguing over which half of the story is allowed to exist. But let's get some actionable stuff and see some handcuffs.
I know, it's crazy that, like, I'm aligned with Democrats and some Republicans, and Republicans are like, well, like, anybody who wants this out, I'm cool with, and anybody who doesn't want it out, not cool with. But listen to, this is Jen Psaki had this to say. Roll this.
It is Trump, yes, and everybody should continue to dig more about that. But it is the wealthy, the elites, and basically every faction of the world. It's global leaders. It's people in the business sector. It is people in Hollywood, probably. Who knows? It is a bunch of people who think that they can get away with anything.
Chad, I can't believe I'm hearing this from Jen Psaki. She was in 2 administrations that covered this up. Her first administration, she was literally vetted by someone who just resigned from Goldman Sachs for her ties to Epstein.
Yeah, I want to say, Jen, you are guilty. I mean, your boss is guilty. Your boss's son is guilty. Who isn't guilty at this point? If we're going to point fingers and make accusations, why she was in power. She was the press secretary, for crying out loud. Why didn't you say something about it if you knew it was Trump? I mean, what are we hiding here? And, you know, if pulling on this fabric unravels society as we know it, then pull the fabric. I don't want to live in a society where we hide pedos and traffickers and molesters and murderers and people who prey on the most innocent among us. But listen, if they can keep us fighting over the narratives, we never ask the bigger questions. And guess who benefits? They do.
Yeah, globalists. Chad, pleasure, my man.
Appreciate you.
All right, coming up, liberal outrage gone wild. A Maryland woman weaponizing CPS against Turning Point USA high school kids, citing serious concerns over a conservative student free speech gathering. That and more in a Culture Clash coming up.
12,720. That's the average cost you pay for term life insurance over 20 years. $12,720 that you could spend on family, loved ones, or yourself. With a return of premium life insurance plan from Senior Life, getting all that money back is possible. That's right. With return of premium life insurance, we don't save you hundreds of dollars, we save you thousands, because we give you all your money back. It works like this. If you pass away while you're insured, your loved ones get a check for the coverage amount you chose. But if you're still living at the end of the term, you get back all the money you paid, guaranteed. Spend it any way you wish. Why would you buy life insurance from another company when Senior Life gives you all your money back? Get all your money back with return of premium life insurance from Senior Life. Call the number now for free information. You have no obligation. Call now.
Got eyelid itching, crusties, and swelling that won't go away? It could be
Demodex blepharitis, and we're Demodex mites. We're very common and super irritating to your eyelids, but we love making ourselves comfortable here. Oh yeah, steam time!
If Demodex mites are partying it up on your eyelids, it's time to eliminate the root of the problem with Xdemvy. With 1 drop in each eye twice a day, you can kill the mites in just 6 weeks. Xdemvy is the first and only FDA-approved treatment that kills the mites that cause Demodex blepharitis, a common eyelid disease. Avoid touching the tip of the bottle to your eye or other surfaces to minimize contamination. Wait 15 minutes before inserting contact lenses. In clinical trials, the most common side effects were stinging and burning in 1 out of 10 patients.
Party's over, folks.
It's not you, it's Demodex mites. Talk to your eye doctor today.
My husband is Michael J. Cardus. In March, he got a phone call that said, "You have lymphoma, it's treatable." He died the next morning. My biggest fears were, how do I financially support the kids? How do I emotionally support the kids? And then Tunnel to Towers paid off my mortgage. I felt like I was seen, that my service mattered to somebody.
As a neurologist, my patients are often concerned with age-related memory decline. I recommend Cunol Brain Health with 2 powerful, high-absorption ingredients clinically shown to improve memory, focus, attention, and more. Cunol, the brand I trust.
You can join the Tunnel to Towers mission to do good by donating your car to today's veterans. Your car donation will help Gold Star families, as well as injured veterans, our first responders, and our homeless veterans. Donating your car is quick and simple. Any car is accepted, and we will pick up the car for free. Simply call 844-BRAVES.
By donating your car, you can make a real difference. You can do good.
First, we had a Maryland man. Now we have a Maryland Karen, a deranged leftist. Listen, she crashed a school board meeting to brag that she sicked Child Protective Services on innocent high school kids just for hosting a Turning Point USA event. Roll it.
In December of 2025, Turning Point USA hosted an event marketed to high school students with food and beverages advertised as an incentive for attendance. While community building opportunities for students are important, this event raises serious concerns related to student safety, parental rights, and governance oversight. Event materials indicated that adults, including parents and legal guardians, were not permitted to attend and that supervision would be provided by unnamed volunteers. Based on the circumstances surrounding this event, a report was made to Child Protective Services. All of this was provided along with—
Thank you for your comments.
She wanted to talk to a manager. This is not about protecting kids. It's about silencing the opinions that she doesn't like from her Subaru. Turning Point USA's high school chapters, known as the Club America, student-led organizations that promote like entrepreneurship and limited government and traditional American values. I know, so terroristic, right? Assistant AG for the Civil Rights Division, Harmeet Dillon, though, is announcing that she's already looking into this. I think she should put this woman in jail for that. Author of Lawless Lawfare, Alex Swoyer, and president and founder of 917 Strategies, Sarah Selip. Alex, this is one of those things that if they're just going to use the system against you, of course we're going to try to burn down the system.
This is scary. I interned when I was in law school for the guardian ad litem's office, which is the lawyers that assist CPS departments, the Department of Child and Protective Services. There are real cases, and for this woman to waste any sort of time and resources away from any sort of government department that's devoted to these children, it is a crime. In fact, I believe it can be a misdemeanor or a felony depending on the state. I haven't looked into Maryland law. I'm not licensed in Maryland, but I do hope that the locals go after her for the wasted time. And if not that this Trump Justice Department, I think you referenced Harmeet Dillon, that she does do something. The only thing that I would agree with this woman was she said that children are vulnerable. But my question is, where was she when we had Maryland County schools, public schools, forcing LGBTQ required reading
she agrees with that
on pre-K and elementary school children,
Yeah.
right? It's absurd.
Yeah, and also some of these anonymous complaints at times can lead to the state taking your children away from you without a warrant while they adjudicate the situation, at which point I would eliminate the threat if they came for my kids. This is so crazy. Sarah, Wanda Getter-Pakatani, a Bridgeport official who she's facing 100 ballot fraud charges. She's going to be honored at a Black History Month on Friday.
This is wild. So just to set the stage, she is in a cute little city that, Kamala received 753,000 votes to Trump's 612,621 votes, right? Are we surprised that Democrats won by 11 points with how sloppy this ballot stuffing was? I mean, come on. This is the least surprising thing we've seen all day. Do better. But this is exactly why we need safeguards like the SAVE Act. I mean, we need voter ID. We need to rein in on the systemic election system to make sure that mail-in voting and ballot stuffing doesn't happen. I mean, I hope she enjoys her little participation trophy, but, Republicans are going to crack down on this and no more for Wanda.
Yeah, Alex, 25-year-old Australian tennis player Destany Avia, I've never heard of her. Announced, Rob Schmidt probably has, he likes tennis, announced that her plans to retire, claiming the tennis culture is racist and misogynistic and homophobic. I was like, didn't Serena and Venus Williams just dominate both black women?
I guess, that's one point to make. The other thing would be, is she playing against men? The misogynistic, is that where she's going with it? It's one of those questions. I don't follow tennis. I don't know how well she does. I think that anyone that has this sort of platform, they can say what they want, but then they're going to have to reap the pushback that they receive. And that even comes with the sponsors, I'm sure, and those that are willing to work with her. Yeah. One more thing on that fun ballot one is I looked up says I'm a lawyer. I looked up what the charges to this type of behavior is. People get probation in Connecticut for that. Yeah. That's why you have the repeat offenders. It's crazy.
That's my state. I got to leave it right there. Alex, Sarah, we appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up, the Biden administration's assault on our culture by way of illegal immigration may be worse than we thought. We're going to look at those numbers just a sec.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
I like winning on the field, but it's even more fun winning on Deal Dash.
Lori won $2,000 Tiffany earrings for just $1, and Joseph won an iPad for just $6. There's millions of fast auctions. So try today at DealDash.com for $50 of free credit and your first win guaranteed.
Whoa, 90% off? I have to purchase now. My phone!
That was a scam link.
Try this one. We installed PCmatic.
PCmatic blocks ransomware before threats can strike.
It's 100% made in America security.
Trusted by homes, businesses, governments, and now you. Stop guessing.
Start blocking.
Get
PCmatic.
Hello, everyone. It's President Donald J. Trump, and it's Trump time. Check out this red beauty. It's one of my new watches. Wear it proudly on your wrist, and everyone will know exactly what it's for, who it represents. It's really going to be something special. It's for your favorite president. Get your watch today at gettrumpwatches.com. These make a great gift. It's Trump time.
Prices keep climbing. Groceries, gas, everything.
I know, even with a new administration, fixing policies, keeping the economy in line will take time.
I'm so glad we signed up for Noble Gold Investments Value Lock program.
We tied our savings to gold. It's an asset that keeps pace with inflation. When prices go up, so does gold.
So when we need our cash, the value's still there.
Secure your savings with Noble Gold's Value Lock. Call 877-646-5347 or visit noblegoldinvestments.com.
Barrett hasn't taken a bite like that in years. But with his new teeth from affordable dentures and implants, that crunch he's been dreaming about, it's back. Affordable dentures and implants. That's what we do.
Well, it's no secret that the effort to destroy our border, language, and culture hit warp speed during the Biden years, but it is tough enough to grasp the lengths at which the left imported illegals from the third world. Take a look at this chart. It represents illegal immigrant entries to the United States represented by the percentage of the entire country's home population during the Biden years. Both Nicaragua and Cuba imported more than 6% of their entire population to us from February 21 to January 25. Honduras, more than 5.5% of their entire country picked up, pulled chalks, and came here. More than 4% from the third world hellhole of Haiti. I don't know why we would take any of them. And then more than 3% of both Guatemala and Venezuela arrived in the U.S. under Joe Biden. And they didn't exactly send their PhDs, doctors, and lawyers. Now, how the hell is our nation supposed to survive when we're absorbing large portions of nations that don't share our values? Most of them don't even speak our language. Host of Savage Nation and the author of Border Language Culture, Michael Savage. Sir.
Thanks for thinking of me. Well, we've gone from immigrants to gimmigrants. And I'm an immigrant son. I have to keep repeating it. I have sympathies for the immigrant. Okay, let's start with that. I understand the immigrant mentality. However, there's a difference between an immigrant who comes here to work and to assimilate, and those who come here to suck off the welfare state and don't work. And even if they work, their whole family is sucking out the welfare benefits and the health care benefits, which is why our health care has become less than a third world health care system. Look, I've gone to the hospital. I've been online in hospitals. I've been in ER rooms for medical issues. I'm at the back of the line, and I pay much more than
let's say 1,000 of them pay into the system to support the system. It's a nightmare as a result of the Biden administration. But how do you deport all of them is the question. So you see what's happening with ICE when they're going after people who are on their wanted list. Even those people are being protected by the left. Can you imagine what's going to happen when we go after, let us say, less visibly destructive immigrants in this country? I don't know the answer to this problem.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned earlier in the show about DHS being shut down, and the left continues to demand federal law enforcement remove their masks. Border czar Tom Homan just smacking this down, though. Roll it.
As far as the mask, look, I don't like the masks either. But because threats against ICE officers, are up over 1,500%. Actual assaults and threats are up over 8,000%. These men and women have to protect themselves. I'll let the White House and members of Congress, fight that out. But I think some of the asks are just, I think they're unreasonable.
Well, how about this? How about if Congress wants this, they have to give up their name, home address, phone number, email address, personal ones, and then they can see how they feel. But also, they won't take their masks off until local law enforcement starts just suplexing these people that are trying to dox ICE agents in the street.
Look, this is a tough question in some ways. I myself am somewhat of a civil libertarian. I don't like masked police any more than anyone else does. Even Homan says he's uncomfortable with it. But who started this war? Can they unmask the Soros mobs in the streets? Will they take off their bandanas and their masks?
Yep.
Will they take off their helmets? The war was started by the mobs, the Antifa and other mobs funded by George and whatever his son's name is, and the other one, Reid Hoffman, all of these people who are funding them. That's the problem. And why Trump doesn't go after the funders is a really bigger question to me. But that's not the topic you're talking about. Masks, masks, masks. It's the left that started by doxing them. How can they protect themselves if they don't wear masks is the question. I'm sure they didn't want to wear masks originally.
No, they're uncomfortable.
That's not part of the DHS uniform. But they had to wear the masks to protect themselves and their families from the Soros mobs who were doxing them and their families.
But I would say, and I would support this, universal castle doctrine for their property line. You come onto an ICE agent's property line who is doxed after you pull their mask down. If they have to shoot somebody for trespassing, I think they should get immunity.
Well, that's a tough one as well. I would say just giving them a Subaru and a free pass to Canada on the new bridge that isn't operational. I mean, maybe that would be the solution. I love your reference to a Subaru earlier. You distracted me with that. I like the line, and I can't help it. I'm a car nut, which is why I put a model of a Bentley behind me, because I don't drive a Subaru.
Well, we know you don't drive a Subaru, but we have plenty of good viewers that actually drive Subarus, but it is stereotypical with liberals, so,
I drive an 06 car, by the way, on my daily driver. I like to be invisible. I have a Corvette and all of that, but I'm not kidding when I say give them a Subaru, but they have to take it to Canada and move there.
Yeah, exactly.
If you give them a Subaru.
Look, I drive a diesel pickup truck because I want to be able to run over the protesters if they ever try to harass me. Michael Savage, got to leave it there, sir.
Thanks for having me.
All right, be sure to check out Savage Nation right here on Newsmax, Sundays, 8 p.m. Eastern. Before we go, oh dear, Baltimore has a problem, and their solution is hunting, firearms, and night vision. Where was my invite? Next.
Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
You can't go out there. You'll never make it.
But I reckon I got to. I'm 45. It's time to screen for colon cancer.
Will I ever see you again?
I love you. Also, I'm just going to the porch.
I knew that. It's true. The Cologuard test comes to you.
Just ask your provider or request online.
That way you can screen for colon cancer on your terms. It's effective and non-invasive.
False positive and negative results may occur. It is not for those at high risk. Skip the drama. Ask your provider or request Cologuard online.
I'm Elmer Heinrich. I'm in the nutritional business, primarily selling plant-derived minerals. Now, after being in this business for 43 years, owning a cancer hospital in Mexico, and associating with some of the most knowledgeable nutritional people in the world, I came to this conclusion. The world is sick due to a lack of minerals in our food, which is caused by a lack of minerals in topsoil. There is an incredible and proven nutritional product on the market that can overcome this problem. It's known as Immuno 150. This unusual food supplement contains 70 plant-derived minerals and 80 additional nutrients. There's nothing like it. You can learn everything about Immuno 150 by watching the 3 videos on our website. If you're interested, you can order online or call the number on the screen. Now, Immuno 150 is different, it's real, it's powerful, it's helped thousands, and we believe it enjoys the highest pre-order rate in the industry.
The crisis inside Ukraine has reached a catastrophic level, with the elderly Jews pushed to the very limit.
Go inside. She's freezing cold. There's no electricity, no heat, no water. Winter is now a weapon of war, used against the elderly, the mothers, and the young children.
They've been lined up here for hours. These are precious people who are hungry, and they have nothing. If someone doesn't do something soon, a humanitarian disaster is coming. So many Jewish people who are just waiting for someone to care enough to pick up the phone.
Fears are growing that without an emergency, full-scale response, thousands will die this winter.
The International Fellowship of Christians and Jews needs your $25 gift now to help rush a winter survival food box of emergency food for elderly Jews and families in Ukraine. Time is critical. Please give now.
They felt the shaking of missiles. These are people who have already endured so much suffering and disaster.
The fellowship has been here and across the former Soviet Union for decades, but the need has never been more urgent.
Taking out power, taking out water, simple water to drink. We're talking about the difference between life or death. Christian, Jew, standing shoulder to shoulder, saying, we're here to heal, we're here to help.
Your gift of only $25 helps rush a winter survival food box filled with life-saving emergency food for elderly Jews and families in Ukraine who are struggling daily to stay warm and fed. Please call or go online while there is still time.
I can't believe they didn't call. Baltimore City Recreation and Parks has a problem with its deer population that's damaging forests and houses and a bunch of other stuff. So they've introduced a new fantastic solution. Hunters. Starting in March, trained firearms experts from the U.S. Department of Agriculture will enter 3 designated parks after dark. We're not allowed to hunt after dark, but they're going to do it with night vision, conducting shoot-to-kill operations to eliminate as many deer as possible before April 15th. And don't worry, nothing's going to go to waste. The deer that are harvested during the elimination will be processed and donated to the Maryland Food Bank. Rob, why didn't they call me for this?
It's right up your alley. You know, I got family in Bethesda, and there's so many deer in that part of Maryland that my aunt has hit like 3 or 4 of them over the years living there, and they won't let anybody hunt them. So there's just deer everywhere.
I'll do it with a bow.
You can't miss them.
Yeah. All right.
You would do it with a bow or your bare hands. I can see that too. Good to see you, Carl.
Later, Rob.